Thank you very much. So, hello. What stage companies do we have in the room? Seed, Series A, pre-seed, okay. How many pre-revenue? Anyone out there? Okay, great. So we're gonna give you some tactical advice on some pitfalls that we hoped that someone would have shared with us when we were raising, and also talk about some ways that you can keep your mental fitness intact as you're raising as well. So Helium, and I'm the CEO of Helium, is essentially a meditation app that's powered by your body's electricity. And over the course of the last 7 years, I raised about $5 million in the middle of the Midwest, which is kind of like 35 million on the West Coast, right? Because it's hard to raise. We're a relatively small team in the Silicon Prairie. We just got internet last year. So we're doing really well. But obviously, in our communities, we lack traditional access to venture capital. So if we're able to raise $5 million in Columbia, Missouri, I have no doubt that each and every one of you, can do the same if you need it. Our background, we were creating for Google Cardboard back in 2013. And now in 2024, went through all those different iterations now and have a product in the market. We've raised from small angels all the way up to large entities like Mayo Clinic, and have won pitch competitions around the world from South by Southwest, et cetera. And so I'm gonna go through 10 different hacks that you all can use for your next raise. And that first one, when you're starting your company, you're thinking about all of the different things that you need. You need to secure your IP, you need to get your product, you need to get it funded. Actually, you need to back up just one more step, and that is figure out who is your very first founder. And when I say very first founder, I don't mean necessarily this person who has the technical expertise or the product chops. I'm talking about your family, your partner, your fur baby, who is going into war with you in order to raise this round. And so you really need to identify who is that first founder that you have, and are they okay with you going out to do battle and having that time away? So did you ask that family member, are they okay with that? Because if not, you might need to reassess that and ensure that you have that support network, because when they're not getting attention, they bring in animals like turtles or possums in your house as gentle indications to you that they're not getting enough attention. So that's really crucial that you have that foundation and that support as your first founder. Who's your familiar, who's your friend, who's your partner founder, and are they okay going into battle for that raise? Also ask yourself, do you even need to raise money? And check your unit economics. So if you're not familiar what your unit economics are, there are amazing accelerator programs out there. But basically, this is the very quick snippet. All you need to figure out is your customer's lifetime value. So basically, how long are you able to keep your customer versus the cost to acquire, and what that ratio is. And you just want to ensure that that customer lifetime value, so for instance, if you're charging $10 a month for your spatial computing game, that customer lifetime value is how long are they staying on that platform for that spatial computing game. Maybe it's 3 months. Well, then your customer lifetime value is $30 versus the cost to acquire. How much are you spending in Facebook ads or in SEO in order to acquire that customer? Maybe it's $1. So you have a ratio there. Those unit economics are really crucial. And if you already have good unit economics, I definitely recommend seeing what you can generate from a revenue perspective, because that will open up doors and conversations way faster than any fancy pitch deck or any fancy product demo. Do you have revenue? Have you actually gone out and acquired a customer? And as it relates to those unit economics, one of the most important things that you can put in your pitch deck honestly has not a lot to do with your product, but your unit economics. So what is your churn, or how often are customers rolling off of your platform or canceling? What's your average contract value, your ACV? What's your gross profit margins? And then again, that magic ratio of lifetime value to your cost to acquire a customer. If all of this is Greek to you, it's okay. It's Greek to a lot of founders when you're first starting out. Go and try to find either an accountant, a fractional CFO, or someone who does have finance chops. Chances are they can take your Excel spreadsheet or whatever you have on a paper napkin and can put it into these unit economics, because this slide is super important. Of all the slides that you share in your pitch deck, when you have these numbers on a slide, this is very sexy to an investor. They will lean in and want to know more about this. And the reason why is because this slide shows if they put in $1, they get $10 out. So they can instantly see how they get their money back. So super important to figure out those unit economics. Even if you don't even have revenue yet, you can still think about, well, for my game, my spatial computing product, we're charging this, and this is how long we think they'll stay. So that's the lifetime value. You can figure out those different ratios. I'm also happy to share these slides and templates with you so that you can put them into your own pitch deck. Just plug in your numbers. So this fictional company, this is a financial velocity slide that's showing that investor a lot of what they need to know. What's the lifetime revenue of the company? How quickly are their new bookings or new sales growing? What's the velocity of that? How much year over year is their ARR increasing, or annual recurring revenue? What's their deferred revenue? Deferred revenue is basically how much revenue that you've chunked up over the life of your contract. There's a type of accounting called GAAP, G-A-A-P, or Generalized Accounting Principles. Again, you don't have to know that. A lot of founders don't when they first start, but your investors will want to see your projections, or even if you have revenue, they will want to see it on generalized accounting principles. And for you SaaS companies, software as a service companies, what that means is that when someone pays you an annual fee for a contract, you break it up over a series of months. And so you might get $500 in the bank immediately from a check, but according to generalized, general accounting principles, or GAAP, you break that up over a series of months. And so, investors, particularly accredited investors and sophisticated investors, will want to see that. You can still report, what your new bookings and new sales is, but they want to see that revenue according to that. And again, happy to share these slides that you can break up your own numbers. And also, let people know in those slides, when you're projected to break even, when will you be EBITDA positive? If you're not sure what EBITDA is, again, get a finance professional with you so that you can put that kind of things in your forecast. Number 4, what's their investment thesis? And are they actually deploying capital? That is a number one mistake of founders when they're going out to raise, is asking for investors to take their meeting, and turns out they're not even deploying capital. They're still raising their second fund. And so you're just spinning your wheels. And when you ask those questions, investors will see you as asking intelligent questions of, are you even, deploying capital right now? If the answer is no, you might rethink that meeting, because it's, it could be a warm-up meeting until when they are, but chances are you want to close your round in a timely manner. What's their average check size? If their average check size is $25 million and you're a pre-revenue company that really only needs a $500K raise, probably that's not a good use of your time. How long does their diligence take? With some of these, sometimes these funds or super angels can do diligence pretty quickly, in about 30 days. And by diligence, I mean they're going into your data room and looking at everything, all of the files, all of your founding agreements, all of your agreements essentially. And that takes time. It takes time for their attorneys. If they're diligence, and we had one fund that we were in diligence with them for 8 months. It was worth it because they were a strategic investor, but that's a long time to be in diligence. So definitely ask them, how long does that take? Are they okay with pre-revenue companies? If you don't have any revenue yet, you probably shouldn't be pitching to funds that are investing in Series A companies that are, wanting $1 million in ARR before they write checks. What series stage are you? And did you know that you can do 1, 2, sometimes 3 seed rounds? A lot of founders think that they just have to progress through those phases of pre-seed, then seed, and then your next round has to be Series A, and then your next round has to be B, C, D, E, whatever. No, you can have 3. You can have a pre-seed 1, 2, and 3. You can have a seed 1, 2, and 3. So, don't artificially think that you need to advance yourself if you're not meeting those metrics for those different funds. And we don't have time right now to talk about, what those different stages are, but definitely know that it's okay to have, a 1 or a 2. And also, can I stay in touch? When we were raising our round, we got hundreds of no's, right? And some of the ones who we got yeses were ones that we stayed in touch with, sent them company updates every quarter, even if it wasn't a revenue when we were pre-revenue, even if it was up to, this is who I talked to and this is what we did. This is the IP that we secured. This is the persons we hired, like traction. And they're watching you. They want to see regular updates and that regular traction and to see how quickly you are on that path to revenue. So don't think that those no's are a no. They actually do want to stay in touch. And when you're in those conversations, feel free to use it as free consulting advice with those investors. Those investors see a lot of companies, and they also see potential sales channel partners for you. So after those calls ends and maybe they say, it's a no for us and here's why, find out why. Ask them, is there anyone else that you think I should be talking to? We've got so many other funds in our round from asking that one question. They're like, actually, yes, you're not our stage, or we don't invest in this or whatever. We're enterprise or consumer, but you should be talking to this person. Let me introduce you. And let me tell you, when it comes from an introduction, it will absolutely be a door opener from another fund. Use those no situations to open doors that will ultimately get you to a yes. Develop a data room preview. Obviously, that data room is all of the documents, and you really, when you're raising, you as a founder, you need to become a diligent caretaker of everything that you sign, all of those agreements, and have it in a data room. And so there are a variety of different things that you could use from that, from a Google Drive on a very simplistic level, maybe when you first start up, and as more advanced in your stages, something like a doc send. That is gated, will give you the email address of who saw it, because really you have trade secrets and company secrets inside those data rooms, and that's why you want it to be a preview, and you're not giving all of your intellectual property out in for someone to take. That doc send, it will alert you when someone's looked at your file, and it gives you ownership of that. Carta also has a data room as well, and Carta is a cap table management software that makes it easy to manage your cap table as you get more than 5 or 10 investors in your round. So always have 2 data rooms. One is a preview that's just kind of like, here's my front porch. You can come and sit on my front porch. And then when I find out whether or not you're going to write a check, or what strategic value you have to us, well, then I'll invite you inside to meet the family. So that preview of that data room is super important. Sadly, beware of bad actors. And sadly, for some underrepresented founders, we're hearing a lot more and more of these stories. There are data room trolls out there who will want to take a meeting with you just so they can see what's in your data room. How are you going to market competitively? Maybe they are another fund that has another competitive portfolio company that's struggling, and they want to know how you're doing it so they can then give that information to that portfolio company. Sadly, that happens. Investors don't always disclose their conflicts of interest. And so, some of these things happened. Sadly, there are pitch competitions for underrepresented founders, or they have cohorts. And then in those scenarios, the people in those pitch competitions or in those cohorts are never funded. And, the stories of those underrepresented founders are used. You're shaking, I know, right? It's happening a lot. We need to have a conversation about that. The stories are being used. They use that to raise their fund or to whatever, and then those founders are never funded. Or they'll have a pitch competition, and then the prize is, the founder's up there with a big check, and they share it out on the social media that they gave this big check to a founder. But in reality, going back at their rules, it says, we agree to go into diligence with this founder, even though they awarded them, publicly and got all the social accolades for that fund. And then in the diligence process, there's something that doesn't, quite work or doesn't work, or actually they're raising their second fund and they're not deploying capital anymore. It happens. And so be very clear of, any competition that you pitch or any cohort that you're a part of, that there's actually value for that in that relationship if they're not going to write a check. Because some of these funds, end up, dismantling or whatever. Also be aware of investors who ask to split up their checks late in the negotiations. We're going to give you $500,000. Great, you go through all the diligence, you wait for their subscription packet to be signed, and then in the end, the investor says, actually, we're raising our second half of the fund. Can we split that up into two halves? And then they don't end up raising the second fund. You've maybe given them some advisory shares or a board seat or something like that, and then it never happens. So always beware of, investors that want to chunk up investments into two separate things. Explore family offices, especially right now. It's hard to raise from funds right now in this climate and the aftermath of the Silicon Valley bank collapse, right? Super hard. They're plugging you into an algorithm, and if your revenue or metrics don't fit it, then you're instantly out. Family offices do have capital. They are deploying capital. So seek them out, and you might have better luck there than you would at a fund. Celebrate the no's. You're going to get a lot of them, hundreds we had. And we actually had to develop things to properly place that grief so that it wouldn't demoralize ourselves and our team. So, you get these emails all the time about no's. Thank you so much for reaching back, following up on the round. We're going to stand down for now, but wish you the best of success as you continue to scale. Save those no's, because one day they're going to be a yes. And you're going to want to remind yourself, and you're going to want to send cardboard checks to them that are written out in a large amount after you're acquired that says, does not apply to you, right? You have to get this mental, fortitude in order to go through some of those rays. Consider couch announcements. We celebrate the no's. We get on the couch and we say, so-and-so fund, or maybe you lost a deal or whatever. Celebrate it. It kind of normalizes that grief and that no, and it's become part of our company culture. We have interns in our team who are like, I got an F on a test. Can I do a couch announcement today? And it equips them with the proper way to properly place that grief, because no's are just data. They are fertilizer. You're embracing all the stinky stuff that sucks, that will ultimately help you grow. So when everybody gives you a no, lean into the no. And in that letter, that we got the no, we followed up, actually, you can't just tell me this isn't gonna work. I need to know, why was it a no? Because that's, free consulting that can help me and my product and raise. So always hit them back with that no. That's great, but tell me specifically why. I've even been like, would you take a call with me and shoot it to me straight? Tell me the hard truths. That's super important. This is the mayor of our town standing on our couch celebrating a yes after we got some investment from Mayo Clinic. Focus on your mental fitness. Raising is the stress Olympics that not everyone is trained for. What you tell yourself in your mind impacts your brain patterns, and that's, our company does a lot of that. This is our founder doing brain maps. Did you know what you say in your head actually impacts your physiology? So make sure that you have, good areas of mental fitness. Round up. If you're, hesitating to say I'm the CEO of a company or, I'm a VR creator, but yet you haven't really created anything, no, you are a CEO, you are a creator, even if you haven't created anything yet. Round up in those conversations and identify yourself as what you want to be, not necessarily who in your mind you think you are now. There are balls that bounce and balls that break. Your job is to identify and give yourself grace for the fact that you're going to drop some balls. It's incredibly hard to raise money, especially right now, and focusing on what you can control. If you can't control it, there's no sense in actually worrying about it. Surrounding yourself with people who will support you, call you out when one of your table legs are out of balance. Tremendously helpful to get that support network. And just to wrap up here, ultimately, even though we had a hard time raising in the middle of the Midwest with the Silicon Valley bank collapse, the VR winter, and all of the different things that had the funds dried up, we eventually did raise from the NFL Players Association, from Mayo Mass Challenge. We won Procter & Gamble Innovation Prizes, and you will too if you know and discover how to properly place that grief and properly know how to deal with that word no. So just to recap here, those 10 hacks. Identify who that battle buddy is and that first founder. Know your unit economics. Do you even need to raise right now? What's their investment thesis? Are they even deploying capital? Should you spend time there? Only give them a data room preview. Don't invite them all the way into the house so that they can see everything with your IP. Beware of the bad actors, specifically the ones who say they're going to chunk up their investment in 2 checks, or pitch competitions or funds that only want your story but have no intention in writing you a check. Explore family offices, specifically right now. Celebrate those no's. No's are data that will ultimately get you to a yes, and focus on your mental fitness because it's hard out there and you need to have these tools to survive the stress Olympics, not only for your own mental health in the virtual world, but in the real world as well. So I hope some of that was helpful to you in giving you that information. I'm happy to share those financial velocity slide templates so it makes it easy for you to plug in your own numbers. Just email me at hello@tryhelium, and helium is spelled with HEAL like healing, hello@tryhelium.com. Good luck to you. I have no doubt that you will have incredibly successful companies.